Good morning. You are tuned in to the Talkin' Shed podcast. Again, Adam Fennig here with Cody Cisco. Cody, what's going on this morning?
Oh, not much. We are driving to go see a couple of guys here in southern Indiana today. Well, I shouldn't say southern Indiana.
Kind of
moderately.
Kind of east central.
Yeah.
Is
kind of our target area today.
Is where we're headed. You guys listened in last week, and we were headed in the Indiana region, and some of this today is picking up guys that weren't around or wanted to meet a different day, and some of it is some different leads. Cody, you've got a guy we're heading to on a J&M applicator.
Yeah. So he's interested in a 60-foot J&M. We're going to go look at his trades here today, and he's basically just getting out of the anhydrous deal because he's he basically what he's doing right now is he's running both anhydrous and 28, and he just doesn't have the manpower to do both. So he's going to get out of the anhydrous deal because he does all of his anhydrous pre-plant.
Right.
And he's going to go fully 28.
Yep.
Liquid 28.
Cool. So since the last podcast, depending on your geography in the United States, you've went through some heartache, mainly talking about the Buckeyes and Georgia football game there over the weekend. Us being Buckeyes fans, we were watching that, and they hung in there. That was a good game.
Yeah, that's
both games were good. The Michigan game.
Yeah, it just kind of seemed like Michigan came out real flat the first half, and then they came back and they made it a good game. And the Buckeyes game, it was just kind of a slugfest the entire game. It was a great game, really good game to watch.
Yeah,
so,
I couldn't believe how well the Buckeyes showed up. How well C.J. Stroud, which he was basically trying out for an NFL team on that game.
Yeah.
He missed the Heisman deal. So it was pretty much either show up that game or join the crowd with some of the other fellow Buckeyes that made a big splash but didn't last.
Yep.
And man, did he show up. I think you boil that game down and you look at what happened. Rolling into the fourth quarter, Georgia had their foot on the gas, and Ohio State was just hoping that clock would tick away.
Yeah.
And so I think their conservative actions got the best of them a little bit. Granted, Day went for that 4th and 1 fake punt, and Kirby's spotters sniffed it out, I should say.
Yeah.
And I think they should have went for it, brought the offense back in after that sniffed out fake punt, and got that 4th and 1. But conservative play got the best of them, and Georgia, they never let off the gas in the fourth quarter, and some run plays there on that last series, and then you're relying on a kicker to win the game when really the game should have been won before the kicker ever had to come out on the field. So
it's not the NFL.
Yeah,
a little different.
A huge botched kick. I mean, it was a bad kick, but like I said, it should have been won before that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that happened. New Year's. Hopefully everyone has a happy New Year and had a good long extended weekend. We had Friday afternoon and all day Monday off. I know that was pretty dang nice.
Yeah.
So we had that back-to-back weeks. That's going to be hard to break that cycle.
Yeah, but it's time to get back in the groove of things. Stuff's starting to heat up again, so it's part of it.
Well, I mean, it's 2023 now.
Yeah.
And we're going to plant corn sooner than later.
Yeah.
Guys in Texas, they're going to be doing it in February.
Yeah,
already.
I mean, call me crazy, but around here, we're going to be planting corn in 3 months.
You're crazy. You told me to.
Yeah.
But, it's a lot going on. We we went over some plans yesterday for the new shop and office and showroom down there at Wabash. We've been working out of there at the new facility a little bit, utilizing some of the great features in the shop, but we had a construction company draw up some plans for the main building, which would be, office space and, a showroom. And oh my gosh, that place is going to be pretty sweet.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, imagine a building with glass windows in the front. You can see into this showroom, and you can have a BBI spreader or J&M applicator. It's going to have a 20-foot wide garage door. Mm-hmm. Put something there front and center, and then some sales guys will have offices right there in the showroom to be able to handle the walk-in customers who are kind of looking and kicking tires and want to learn more. Mm-hmm. And then there will be a receptionist that kind of guides everyone to where they need to go, whether they're picking stuff up, and a parts counter right there. And then behind all that is going to be all the offices. Mm-hmm. Man, it's going to be a total game changer on what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree. Have a actual good storefront, and it's just going to build us. Yeah,
the efficiencies through the roof. Mm-hmm. Any inefficiency that we carry with us right now that we've had to live with and just deal with will disappear.
Yeah,
I think it'll just be amazing at the time saved. Not only loading customers, but the communication we'll be able to have from everyone basically being in one building. The warehouse isn't in a detached area. It's right there. You just walk through some doors, and there's the forklift and Austin and Jason and customer pickups, and it'll be good.
Yeah,
it'll be good. It'll be a long road. They're gonna start tearing out some stuff here this week, it sounds like. Mm-hmm. And it'll be July, August or later, but that's how it goes. But we're starting on it, and we went over those yesterday. That'll be exciting.
Yeah, I agree. Pumped for it. Ready to get over there. I think everybody is. I know our shop guys definitely are, which they've kind of already transitioned a little bit. Most of them have anyway.
Oh, we're going to have a hard time getting those guys back into the little shop.
I know it.
About every morning they just drive down there. They don't even stop in. But we got a lot of Salford tools in to build, a lot of J&Ms to build. We're kind of, all of a sudden, we got, like a blizzard, we got covered up in equipment to build.
Yep.
For 3 months, we were kind of just waiting around for this stuff to come in. Mm-hmm. Sure, we had projects to do, but now all of a sudden, boom, here it is. The calendar's turned, the clock's ticking, and it's go time once again. And we're more ready for it than we've ever been.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing planer jobs already, and last year I don't think we started on a planer job until after the first of the year. So
right,
we are eons ahead of where we were. I think we've got probably 3 or 4 of them done already here this year. So
yep.
But that's actually what we're going to talk about today.
That is the topic of today's conversation. I felt like it's just the right time of year. The calls are coming in. Mm-hmm. I've got an ad out there in Farm World. Hopefully everyone has seen it. Mm-hmm. If you have, give us a shout out so I know that our marketing dollars are working. I had a guy from Kentucky call me on that ad yesterday, so that's a good feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many ways to planter fertilizer is a bigger topic than what we have got batteries for in this recorder today.
Yeah.
But I want to hone in on what we do, what we see, experiences customers have had. And if you're kicking around planter fertilizer, we want to make it a less daunting task. We want to make it easy. I mean, it's something that we seriously specialize in, and I think we've got some very, very good mouse traps to get your planter fertilizer down in an efficient manner and not allow it to keep you from planting corn.
Yeah.
So I kind of figured we would just start on a broad range, and talk 2x2 versus in furrow, to kind of start with. And I don't mean that as far as like which one you need to do, but I'm talking, there's a difference in pumps because there's a difference in rate. So let's dive into what we usually do if a guy wants to add in furrow or quote unquote pop-up fertilizer to his, call it a 12-row planter. And let's say he's doing 3 gallon an acre, which is a common rate.
Yep.
He's doing, planting at 5.5 mile an hour. It's not a high-speed rig.
Yep.
And he wants to keep it simple. Okay. So 12 row, 3 gallon an acre. Wants to keep it simple. What's your move?
Well, first and foremost, if he's going to be doing in furrow, my first go-to is either a totally tubular or putting it out the Keaton seed firmer.
Yeah,
that's the number one move there.
And it boils down to this: it's either one or the other.
Yeah,
you either put it through the Keaton or you put it through the totally tubular.
Yeah,
and the difference is the totally tubular can put that product underneath the seed. The Keaton will coat the seed.
Correct.
Okay, so you need to talk to your suppliers. Maybe they're putting an insecticide in there with it.
Pivot Bio is one of those that has to go over the seed.
Sure, some of these products have to go over the seed. So boom, all of a sudden we're narrowed down to you got to run a Keaton. Which is fine. But that's decision number one. Keaton, totally tubular, and those are differences. So from there, let's say we've honed in on the Keaton, the new quick attach Keaton. Now where do we go?
So from there, usually no matter what, we usually set up guys with some set of tank to hold this, because usually guys are like, say it's a John Deere 1770 or something along those lines. Well, there's a piece on there that you can add a 300 gallon tank. That's where we put that
out the back.
Out the back. So that one's pretty easy to just throw up there, mount it, and you're good to go. So usually it's tank about where we're going to have what we're going to be putting on, and how much capacity is usually second. And there are so many different options out there. It's mum's the word. It
all boils down to customer preference at that point.
Right.
How often, if you're doing 3 gallon an acre on a 300 gallon tank, you're going to go roughly 100 acres.
Right.
That's a long time. So, does he need that much weight? Is he worried about compaction? So, tanks, I always just kind of leave that up to the customer. From there, I would go to the pump. I would go pump. And then furrow system, a guy going 5.5 mile an hour. Usually an electric motor is where we're going to send you. An electric pump. I mean, that's just super simple, easy to navigate, not very hard to control. It'll have a whisker switch with it, being an option. And what that does, to clarify, is a whisker switch will trigger when you raise and lower your planter. Correct. It'll automatically turn that pump on and off.
Yes.
So basically, we would put a 7 gallon a minute electric pump on there, and your flow would be regulated via pressure, basically, in orifices.
Correct. Yes.
So with the electric pump, there's what they call a motor driver. It's a circuit board that gives and takes away amperage from the pump to speed it up and slow it down based on the settings that you have set in your cab. So we use a product called a Benco motor driver, and what we'll do is, Cody will do the math on your gallon per minute per row.
Yeah.
So he'll take the speed times the spacing times the target rate, and there's a math equation to come up with how many gallons per row at 5.5 mile an hour are you going to spit out. And it's usually something like 0.2 or 0.02. It's a very small number. And we're going to correlate an orifice or a surefire metering tube, whichever way you want to go, to that rate. And then Cody's going to pick a pressure. So typically we like to run 20 to 30 psi, so call it 25. So if you tell your Benco to always run at 25 psi, it's going to give your pump enough amperage to be running at 25 psi. And we know that with number, call it 37 orifice, at 25 psi, it's going to allow the correct amount of gallons per minute through that hole.
Correct. Yes. So whenever we run that algorithm, that's why we always ask those questions as far as, what kind of spacing you're on, what speed, all of that stuff, because we need that information to complete the algorithm. Once we do that, like Adam said, we set the pressure, and if you want to go up a little bit, if you don't think you're putting on enough, you can always bump it up and go up a little bit. It's all going to be based off of that nice T-jet chart that has the orifices on there that tells you how much you're spitting out. But you would have to rerun your algorithm, say if you're changing speed or something like that.
Right.
So it's going to fluctuate a little bit.
Yeah, so that's what I would do on a in-furrow kit like that. The Benco motor driver, sure, it's a little display up in the cab, but it's nothing to be afraid of. It's super simple. It'll keep you accurate all the time. And of course we would have a red ball flow monitor system in there, and those are going to serve two purposes. They're going to show you if you've got a blockage, and they are also going to be your distribution manifold. A lot of these ground drive pumps have got a stainless steel round distributor, like a 18 port distributor on them, and I'm not a huge fan of how those things work, so we always put the red balls in place of those. So we would go from the electric pump up to the red balls with a single hose, and then the red balls would then be our branch out from 1 hose to 12 hose. Now there's a big key, in a lot of guys question the accuracy and row to row, and how we get all that nailed down is kind of what we talked about with the orifice. And understanding what the orifice does is a big piece to mastering your serviceability on your planter fertilizer kit. An orifice is designed to create pressure. Basically, we're going to put it in line, and it is going to have a teeny tiny hole punched in it, and it is going to obviously create back pressure. Imagine if you had a garden hose and it had an end on it with a valve, and you start to turn that valve shut. What happens? The water starts to really shoot out of there. You're going to get less volume but higher pressure because it's creating back pressure on that hose. An orifice acts in the same fashion. It has to create back pressure so that each row is getting an even amount of product.
Correct.
You can imagine if you did not have orifices in the row, all the product would just be kind of dripping through a 3/8 or 1/4 inch line, and it would just really slowly, gradually flow through there. Well, what would happen is, coming out the red balls, the first 2 or 3 rows closest to the center of the red ball, that's where all the product goes.
Yeah. Because
it's always going to take the path of least resistance, and it's never going to get pushed all the way out to your furthest rows to the left and right. So an orifice is there to almost be like your thumb over the garden hose and create back pressure so that that product does want to go out and has enough pressure to try and find the path of least resistance, and it all of a sudden goes out to the very far ends. So orifices regulate flow. And when I say orifices and in furrow, Heck, there's one right there.
Jeez.
There's deer right along the road. When we're talking orifices,
that's a buck.
Yeah. Oh yeah, jeez.
Yeah, he's a big one.
When we're talking orifices and regulating flow on in-furrow, that orifice size is going to be super tiny on a 3 gallon an acre planter, especially a 12 row.
Mm-hmm.
So surefire metering tubes would be a decent route to go as well. Those are another option. I say that because sometimes that hole in that orifice can get so small that you can get some plugging effects if your product isn't super, super clean and filtered really well.
Correct.
So that's the gist. I think it's important to understand why we use orifices, what they do, and the other one to understand before we jump into other things would be a check valve.
Mm-hmm.
A check valve is a little plastic piece that's located as close to the row as possible. And what the check valve does is when you raise your planter and basically the pump shuts off, if you don't have a check valve in line, every ounce of product from the red ball down to the row is going to just dribble out and run out the back of your planter as you're lifted and twisting to turn around. A check valve has got a little spring and a gasket in there. And when there is 5 pounds or less of pressure in the system, that spring is pushing against the gasket, which is closing the line. When the pump fires back up and you create 25 pounds of pressure, that is enough pressure to push that spring and gasket open, and now it flows through.
Mm-hmm.
Your pump shuts off, the spring closes off, and what it's doing is it's locking that fertilizer from dribbling out every time you raise and lower. So that's a check valve, and it saves a lot of dribbling on the ends, makes it pretty clean. So,
yep.
So that's kind of a quick rundown of an in-furrow kit.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your tanks, whatever size you want, an electric pump with a Benco motor driver, red balls, and Keaton seed firmers.
Yep.
Pretty straightforward system, and that thing is going to be so trouble-free, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, going to the 2x2 system of fertilizer, we're going to be usually the first object is how are we going to apply it?
And that's where the big toss-up begins.
Yeah. Do you have to get it in the ground? That is what everybody's main concern is. Oh, well, I've got to get it in the ground. Well, from what we've seen, that isn't always necessarily completely true.
Different products can hold different things. But
yes.
I guess to summarize it, we're using a lot of that totally tubular stainless tubes out the back.
Mm-hmm.
To be blunt, we're using a lot of them. For years, we've tried to get creative and use different single disc openers on both sides of the row. You're talking thousands of dollars per row. There's the conceals, again, thousands of dollars per row.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I have thrown those stainless tubes at the pickiest of farmers who look and pay attention to every detail, who swore they would never put fertilizer on their planter unless it was buried exactly 2.17 inches deep on 2.5 inches each side of the row. And I'm here to tell you they are very pleased with it today, because they don't have to deal with the bearings, they don't have to deal with the blades.
Yep.
They don't have to deal with the potential downtime of plugging.
Yeah.
It doesn't alter their planter. It doesn't rust the snot out of their brand new planter.
Yep.
Because it's out the back.
Yep. It doesn't touch anything.
Yep. And something that we need to realize is we can't let our fertilizer system keep us from planting corn.
Correct.
If you've got a system that's, it's row by row shut off, I've got a flow meter on every row, it's ran through this fancy monitor, and it costs just shy of what my planter did to meter out at 10 gallon to the acre, there's likely you're going to have downtime. You're going to have off-season repairs, bearings. You're going to have plugging issues. You're going to have technical issues where you're going to have to call several times to get things rolling.
Yeah.
Flow meters are going to get clogged up. Now, whereas out the back is just so dang simple and it works.
Yeah.
Usually in the spring, there's moisture there. It typically rains within 10 days of planting. It's not like it's 90 degrees. It's going to be, 50s at night, and it's going to be maybe 60s during the day, maybe 70s. We're not laying down, a lot of product on concrete hard ground.
Right. Correct. It's able to get absorbed into the ground fairly easily for the most part. I've always, a lot of guys that I've talked to that are, those guys that are dead set on getting it into the ground, exactly what you said. I mean, I've got a hard time of just wasting fertilizer. Well, realistically, if you think about it, it's a little different whenever you're going in and doing it at that time frame. It's not, like you said, not near as hot. It's easier to get it into the ground, all of that stuff. And it's orificed, the exact same way as what an in-furrow system is. So it's super simple. There are no blades going in the ground. You don't need extra down pressure to get that unit into the ground. Our seed placement is the one thing that needs to be the most accurate. That is the first step into planting anything, is making sure our seed placement is correct. Well, whenever you put blades into the ground to hinder that, are you doing yourself a justice by putting more blades into the ground and not being able to get it into the ground?
Right. And don't get me wrong, we've used several disc openers over the years attached to the row unit, and we can make it work. You're going to have Delta Force for sure, and it can be done, no doubt. It can be done. If you're dead set on getting it in there, we can do it. But your planter's going to have to be set up to do so, and there's going to be wear points. So for the guys that call me up and want this trouble-free system, I always run to the totally tubulars. Now, if you got all kinds of labor and you're willing to take the time and realize that there's a little bit of downtime on startup, hey, we can talk dual Martin UMOs. We can talk Yetter 2968s out the back, and we can get some stuff on there. Now, Jeff Worley also says a lot, well, maybe we need to start putting this into 2 different passes. Yeah. And he's not wrong either, and what he means there is, why don't we do all of our fertilizer in front of the planter with the strip freshener, the product that they came out with that's designed to create perfect seed beds, and get all of this weight off the planter, get all the stress off the planting guy. He's got enough to worry about on, well, this guy's got to bring me seed, and I'm going to run out, and oh shoot, I got to fill with fertilizer. By the end of the day, he's just fried. So what happens when we take all this fertilizer and we just put it on a separate bar and run it in front of the planter? Yeah. And Jeff has advocated for that for a long time, and I've got several customers doing so. Yeah. And I think that is a nice route of doing it, but there's still, we're still going to want to stay efficient and guys that don't have the labor to do that. And so the planter fertilizer or hanging tanks off of planter frames, I think, is going to go on until eternity. Yeah. But it's that we've talked a lot about this, and we've drug on and rambled on probably long enough about out the back and in the ground. That's going to be up to the customer. We can do whatever you want to do, but just know up front some of the downsides. If I were to sell you some of those products that I rattled off in a seed, in a dual placement colder option to get it below the ground, you're going to be, every bit of $1,000 to $1,200 per row. Okay, so take that times 12. Call it $10,000 to $14,000. Whereas the totally tubular out the back is $100. So $1,200 versus $14,000. So if we are losing product, putting it out the back, how much can we lose before we pay for the difference?
Exactly.
You know, $10,000 to $12,000. How much fertilizer can that buy you? And we never want to lose any.
Right.
But we also just have to factor in, and I'm looking at it from a service standpoint. You know, a guy calls me, oh, these are plugging in my cover crops or something like that. And it's like, you know, dang it, we worked really hard to get the product, and it got bolted on right, and now we're having a little bit of issue with it. And, you know, in the heat of the battle, what's going to happen is they're just going to get ripped off and thrown and then on a pile. And you know, and then we're going to circle back to it next year and try to tackle it. So from a service standpoint, and keeping a customer satisfied and rolling and making their planter run as smooth and as efficiently as possible, I'm running to the TT300s all day long. That's where I'm coming from. So yeah, from there, you know, you pick your mode of action. From there, it gets a lot more options on the 2x2 just because we're putting out more product.
Yeah.
You know, a 300-gallon tank on a 12-row putting down 15 gallon the acre. I mean, you're still talking 20 acres. That's still a lot. But you're likely going to want to carry more and more product on something like this. So, so take a 1770. What are options there on tanks?
So we'd probably throw center mount tanks. We're gonna go with probably a 500.
Yeah.
If it's a box planter, we might think about a 750.
Yeah.
Depending on what the guys want to do. Usually the guys want to stray away from the 750s if they're center fills. And or we can add wing tanks to create more capacity to spread the weight out.
Right.
So that's kind of the tank options there. Or you know, we've even added some tanks on the tractor as well.
That's a big one that we don't talk about enough. You know, a nose tank, 300 gallon fast, or a 700 gallon yield 360 tank.
Yeah,
those yield 360 tanks get overlooked, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know, they're sleek. 700 gallons is a lot, and man, do they hide them really well on those things. They're low profile. They don't block a lot of your vision. Those things are sweet. I mean, I have guys that just leave them on year round.
How many gallon do those things hold?
700.
Yeah.
So, you know, they come with a really nice fill out the front. Yeah, that's a great option too. You don't have to worry about fitting anything on a planter. You just do it that way.
Yeah, and then pump options, piston pumps.
John Blue ground drive's common here.
Yep.
You know, if a guy is wanting to keep it super simple.
Yep.
And when I say simple, we're not sacrificing accuracy.
No.
When we're talking John Blue pumps, by any means, you're going to be just as accurate with the John Blue piston pump as you are a hydraulic pump with a rate controller or the fancy row by row flow meters on the row flow. You're going to be just as accurate.
Yeah, just as long as we're maintaining the pressure to go down the metering tubes and the orifices.
Right.
It doesn't matter. And then, like you kind of hinted there, hydraulic pumps with a rate controller of some sort is the other option.
Yeah, so you've either got John Blue or you've got hydraulic with a rate controller.
Yep.
If you're running, I boil it down like this. If you're on a green planter with a green tractor and you've got a 2630 and you want to go hydraulic drive, I'm going John Deere rate controller all day.
Yep.
So we'll put a flow meter in there, do 2 or 3 section valves. If you've got the auto shut off unlock on your 2630. And run it through. We'll get an ISO Y splitter from Ag Express, and do it that way. It'll be ran through the John Deere monitor. If you've got a red tractor and a red planter, or even red tractor blue planter, and you want to go rate controller, I'm going Raven ISO. So it's going to run through your Pro 700 or your Pro 1200. Again, we'd get an ISO-Y splitter and run it that way. So basically you would have a rate controller that pops up on your screen. It's going to know your speed, and there's going to be a valve back there that's constantly butterflying to let more or less product through the flow meter to get on your target rate. So basically, if you speed up and slow down, it's going to automatically adjust your rate. Now, typically the issue we run into with hydraulic pumps is having enough hydraulic ports on these tractors. Yes. Yeah, with the planter. They're typically all tied up. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, we can either get creative and pull off some CCS fans, or we could just go ground drive. I mean, it's because with the ground drive, it's automatically speed compensated. Mm-hmm. When we're running off of a ground contact wheel, you're already, as you speed up, obviously the wheel's going to spin faster. It's going to put out more product to get you more product per acre. Yeah. So yeah, those are your options there. Now, that's really your 2x2 and in-furrow conversations. If you were to call in today and ask us to talk about those, that we could just put the phone down and push the recording of this podcast. It would be the same. Those are the questions we would ask and how it would come out. Mm-hmm. Now, what got us into the planter fertilizer game and what makes us kind of specialize in it, I think, is a lot of these tank brackets is what sets us apart. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many times do you get a call saying, hey, I have a DB60 2023 year model 20-inch planter. Any way you can get tanks on that thing?
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, that happened this year. Mm-hmm. A gentleman from Twitter hit us up, said, hey, I saw online all these pictures you guys have. I need tanks. Yep. Well, we specialize in designing and fabricating not only tanks, but a wide variety of products. But in the planter fertilizer arena, it's really set us apart. Mm-hmm. And why don't you kind of talk through that one that you and Devin are doing? I'm talking to this gentleman out of Illinois, and he goes, hey, I'm getting a brand new DB60 planter. It's going to be in 20 inches. Okay. And got some pictures of it. FaceTimed him a little bit, tried to get our heads wrapped around it. Actually found a planter here locally that is very similar. So we went out there the one day, and Devin kind of whipped his magic as far as molding metal like it's Play-Doh, and he's like, okay, this is what I got. Let's go fit it up, see what it looks like. All right, yep, sounds good. So we can get there and fit it up, and it fits. And so they're at powder coat right now, and we're gonna get them rolling. So a lot of times what we do, what Cody kind of skipped over, is we go out and find a planter to pretty much match what you've got. Especially if it's kind of a unique one like a 2023 DB60 20-inch. That's not something we're just going to kind of guess and hope it works, especially when we're shipping them to Illinois. Yeah. But, so a lot of times, like yesterday, I was working on a guy from Kentucky on an 8-row front fold 7200, mm-hmm. and I was looking at past pictures of projects of ones that we've done to get a good idea of them. So what we do is we design and draw up all these brackets, and then we save them in our files. We've got Kyle who works on the computer to draw all these products on the SolidWorks drawings, and then we spit out the laser cut pieces, weld them together, and powder coat them. And then we've got a finished product, and that's very unique to us. A guy could call up with a planter that we've never even done before. I don't know, a 22-inch 1775 high speed, and he wants a center tank and 2 wings. You're not going to find that anywhere. But we can go look at the planter and draw up brackets that will work and provide all the hardware and everything in a turnkey package. So yeah, that's kind of what's gotten us here. And then we also do a lot of on-farm installs is kind of a big thing too, and we do that for many reasons. I'm working with a guy in Kentucky right now. He's pricing a John Blue ground drive for a 2x2 system. So he'll need a 2-inch fill kit, red ball kit, the totally tubulars, and super nice guy. And he's like, man, I'm in Kentucky. I think that if you just ship me the parts, I could probably piece it together. And he's not wrong, but he's going to end up getting probably 400 different parts, and 4 different sizes of hose, and where in the heck does he start?
Right.
And so that's why we do a lot of on the road installs. Is our guys will pre-build a lot of it here at our place. We'll put the red balls together and get the tank and the bracket and stuff. And then when we get to your farm, we're just kind of bolting on, running lines, and away we go. That's totally different from making sure everything fits in a few crates and shipping it on down the road, and the customer receiving it. So we can do a planter install in pretty much a day. There's some of them that are going to take 2 or 3. And when it's done, it's going to be right, versus ship something to a customer. It could take several phone calls and maybe a little bit of confusion on, well, shoot, what did I ship him anymore? I don't remember. That was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. And
this and that. So the on-farm deal sets us apart as well. And I think customers really enjoy that. This guy from Kentucky's kicking around. We're either going to bring it with us to the Louisville Farm Show, or we're going to install it sometime between here and then.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
So yeah, it's kind of something we specialize in. And not only that, but we carry most of the products. We've got the tank brackets pre-made. We've got the tanks in stock. We've got hundreds. We pre-ordered probably 300 totally tubulars. We've got Keatons in stock. We don't run a just-in-time inventory, especially on our in-season planter stuff. It's just not how we work. So, this guy from Kentucky, I keep bringing him up, but yesterday he says, I'm probably late to the ball game. When could I get this stuff? I said, man, I've got everything made but your tank brackets themselves.
Yeah.
I've got your pump. I've got all this, and he couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So yesterday I wrapped up a planter job on a brand new 1775 high speed, doing a dual product John Blue piston pump with a center 500 gallon with totally tubulars out the back and in furrow. Totally tubular in furrow. And he's going to be going anywhere from 5 mile an hour to 10 mile an hour with that planter. So that's going to get interesting with the metering tubes, but I've got Surefire taking care of that for me. But that's going to be a neat deal. He's going to install that all himself. But whatever you guys have in mind that fits your operation that you want to do with planter fertilizer, let us know. We can get it done. I have no question. We will get it done. We'll get the planter tanks mounted. We'll get it all done. And when we talk planter fertilizer, we can't forget to look at the other focal points of the planter, such as the row cleaners and the closing wheels. Right. I don't want to make this podcast sound like an advertisement, because we are talking planter fertilizer, and I more just want to describe how it works rather than, hey, you need to put fertilizer on your planter.
Right, exactly.
But if we're to the point in the process of your planter in which you're wanting to put fertilizer on it, we should already have the no-till coulter removed. You should probably have a row cleaner, floating row cleaner of some brand or flavor on there.
Yes.
And we should have a closing wheel, preferably the Yetter Poly Twister, on that planter before we even talk planter fertilizer.
Yes.
I say that because if we're putting fertilizer on a planter that's got cast closing wheels and no-till coulters, I don't think you're going to see a big benefit, because you've got other underlying issues that we need to take care of first.
Yeah, we need to address them first.
Yes. You've got residue in the furrow. You've got hairpinning. You've got a no-till coulter bouncing your unit. You've got too much down pressure. You've got slots that aren't closed and lost emergence, and late bloomers from your closing wheels. Yep. So we need to look at that stuff first, and then tackle the planter fertilizer system.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
But I don't know. It's that time of year, and those calls are day in and day out right now, 3 or 4 of them a day. And I couldn't help but jump on here and want to talk about them, because I know people are always eager to learn about it. I've done some videos on it. I've even done some, I forget what we even call that anymore, like a webcast with
webinar.
Webinar with some guys in the past, hour-long webinars going through planter fertilizer and how it works, and it can seem very intimidating, but I'm telling you, we can make it super simple, and then we can also take it to the next level. We've got the tender trailers. So we've got storage tanks. We've got the pumps, the big, they call them trash pumps. We've got all that. So we can set you up from storage to transport to planter down into the seed. So we can make a task that's intimidating and daunting, and we can flip it around to be pretty simple.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's a lot of what I've got right now. Today's Thursday. The week is almost over already. We're a week from today. We'll be halfway through the month already of January.
Crazy.
We've got Fort Wayne Farm Show coming up in 10 days?
Something like that.
I don't even remember when it is. It's not next week, but the week after.
Right.
Yeah. So, stuff's flying by, and we appreciate all the listeners out there. We've heard a lot of feedback. I had a guy call me the other day. He said, "I feel like I know you," and I kind of paused, like, I don't think I know you. He said, "Well, I've listened to every one of your podcasts." I said, cool. And so it's been fun. We enjoy doing them, and it's just a nice, quick 45 minutes to an hour of time. We like to do them in the morning, get our brains going, get things turning before the phones ring. We wouldn't dare do this between 8 and 5. We wouldn't be able to talk for that long without our phones going off. And so it's sun's coming up. It's going to be a beautiful day, and we're here in Indiana. We're going to go see some customers. So
sounds good. So
all right,
that's all I got.
That's all we've got on the planter fertilizer deal, and we appreciate everyone tuning in, and we will have another podcast for you guys next week, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you guys.